So, oh gosh, up until the 1st of November, I was the Managing Director of Ordnance Survey International. I'm now an independent consultant advising Ordnance Survey and the World Bank, and also doing some work for a startup called What 3 Years. And I recently, hopefully by the end of this year, I'll be a visiting professor at the Institute for Future Cities at Strathclyde University in Glasgow, in Scotland. One of the things, it'd be interesting to see if it's on the wall there. I recently got appointed to an independent advisory panel for the British government, which is called the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Smart Cities. So it means anybody who comes from whichever different government party can attend this meeting. So we have MPs fighting to be in charge of smart cities in Great Britain, in the UK. We have people from climate change who want to own it, we have Minister of Communication who want to own it, we have a Minister for Smart Cities. So we have all these different people who are fighting. The thing I haven't really heard, and if it's, I'm not sure if it's on the paper, is policy funding and budgets. So where's the money coming from for all this? I mean, Steve showed some great stuff, but a lot of that is kind of gadget stuff. If it can help save life, then maybe there's a business case to bring it into policy and do something. But I think we need to look at things like national programmes and how they align with the goals of what OGC wants to do. Karsten and I were in Singapore last week, and by a rather fortuitous, or by a piece of luck, we were in a meeting, and the Singaporean Minister for Smart Cities joined our meeting. So we were there talking about City GML, and the Minister came in and said, City GML, fantastic, you guys must be doing 3D stuff. Now to me, the more ministers we can get who know vaguely that City GML equals 3D, I think that will make it a lot easier. I mean, you made the point, George, that we shouldn't be standing talking to someone about moving features or geopackage. But actually, the fact that they managed to educate their minister on City GML, that goes back to the funding, because he's signing off Virtual Singapore and Smart Nation. And a big part of Smart Nation is the data model. And it's a 3D enabled standards-based data model. So I think there has to be a level of, for what OGC does going forward, I think there has to be something that aligns with the policy, the funding, the budgets, and these big programs, and how to get involved in these programs. So one of the things that's happening in Great Britain, another thing, sorry, I'm British, well, Scottish, but I live in Britain. One of the things that's happening there is the British Standards Institution is working with something called the Future Cities Catapult. And they have something in the region of £100 million of funding. And they're trying to create something called the Future Cities Standards Institute. So I was at a meeting and I said, okay, how do you define a spatial object? What's a building? What's a road? How are you going to do this? And I said, oh, well, we're going to create some new standards. I said, no, don't, please. There's an organisation called the OGC that has been doing this for a long, long time. So I think there's a massive education that needs to go on across these different communities. So you talked about the viewpoints. I would, and I might be causing myself some work here, but I would maybe add a viewpoint, which is the business value or the commercial viewpoint, that tackles some of the policy, the finance, the budgets, and look at what are the programs and how they then, how the standards then map against some of these activities. I mean, the great one for me at the moment is working with the government task force for BIM in the UK. The Smart Cities guys are doing something, and the BIM task force guys are doing something. And I know through the work that Life and Scott and Karsten are doing on mapping industry foundation classes to City GML, that is hugely, hugely valuable, because I know in Britain we've just estimated construction to be about £90 billion worth of economic activity. So if we can go to a minister with those figures and say this activity pertains to £90 billion, can we have 2.5 million to run an interoperability experiment? It makes it a lot easier. So that's my perspective on this.
Appreciate it. That's good. That's good. Thanks. Nobu, at least introduce yourself. Kind of give your perspective on.
I'm Nobu from Hitachi. I'm staying here because Professor Ryosuke Shibasaki, presenter of Moving Future, have to leave unfortunately. So on behalf of him, I'm staying. I'm co-chair of OGC Moving Future Standard Working Group. So from now on, I would like to explain my thinking from the point of view of moving futures. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mishi, did you want to present? Do you want me to show a slide or two that you were?
No, I don't think so, because I've already done it.
All right.
In the morning.
All right. Well then, we just heard Steve. Unless you want to make some opening remarks, that's great. Or you want to go right into the questions?
The question, yeah. So why don't you say the question?
Yes, okay. So our scheme, and let me move over here so Denise gets me on the camera as she likes. Sorry. So the idea is I've given them 4 questions, and hopefully they're provocative questions, or at least give some basis of conversation. Ask each of them if they have a comment about that question, and then turn to the audience and seek your input, your discussion about each of these. Obviously, you don't know them until I read them, but let me do that now. So 4 of them. First one, is there anything novel or emergent about smart cities? Or is it just a new phrase that's kind of a collection of previously developed technology? Is there something really new and novel here, or is it kind of an assembly point and a labeling of a group of stuff we already have? So maybe Mishi, you want to start first?
Well, to this question, as I mentioned in the morning, that the smart cities are not something that this is the smart city and the process to solve the issues or problems which are associated with the growth of the city. And I'm not the GIS guy, or I'm not OGC member. So I'm talking about talking from the smart city aspect. And here in Japan, there's I mentioned the 3 phases of the focuses of the smart city, from energy to transportation and resilience. And also in Japan, there's a kind of the first fad, enthusiastic fad about smart city is coming down now. And it's the 4th year of the government project, of the demonstration project of the next generation energy efficient cities. And now the people, as I mentioned in the morning, that the people have started realizing that it is very difficult to make up establish the business model of the energy efficiency kind of thing. And now this is, but still people are expecting that the cities must change or must be changing. And even in, especially in Tokyo, we'll have Tokyo Olympic Games, and there'll be some new approaches to for the cities of the way of being. And so we will have this new phase of the smart cities. And so then I think from this year and next year, that it is not the collection of the existing technologies, but not very new technology is needed, but the kind of combination or integration of the existing and the new technologies which are being developed, and also the change of the values to which the people or the resident of the city, I should say, views and will change. And so I think this question, it's a new phase for smart cities, especially in Japan. But the way is not not only the technological aspect, but there's some change of the acceptance of the people can be found.
Okay, thank you. Nobu, do you have a perspective on whether there is something new in smart cities, or is it all?
Yes, this is not my opinion, but Professor Shibasaki mentioned during his presentation the big data from cheap mobile. That is very important. I think, and in my opinion, that is very important because we really don't know what happened in city now and the whole cities. So we should understand the city. So I think the mobile phone is now not only just infrastructure for communication, but understanding city activities.
Steve?
So earlier on, Rich talked about smart lampposts. And I don't know if you're aware, Rich, but there's a European project to create something like 20 million smart lampposts. Glasgow Council's already seen a cost reduction of 75% by changing their lampposts and the energy consumption in 1 year. So they've gone from £4 million a year to £1 million. So I'd say yes, there are some things that are really happening. And then they're integrating, they're taking the city view, they're using big data. I think the thing that a lot of people don't get is the context that location provides. And that's what, I mean, certainly Ordnance Survey, that's what Ordnance Survey's done. On my thinking thing over there, the brainstorming thing, I sort of wrote smart wastes, you know, smart grid, smart everything. I mean, Ordnance Survey's been doing this stuff for a long time, and it has all these business cases, but it's never really called it smart anything. And now, you know, putting some sensor technology in, suddenly a lot of this stuff becomes smart. But a lot of the stuff is what they were doing before, already using geographic information. So I think there is. I think the technology is there now, and I think it's becoming more aware. I mean, I sit in these sessions probably once every 2 weeks at the moment, and I think Denise made the point this morning about, you know, green cities, eco cities, better cities, connected cities, intelligent cities, future cities, smart cities, whatever it is, it's all marketing for different people. So that to me is the key, is getting the sort of the lexicon, the definitions, the glossary, the language, getting that. And that'll be a big challenge for OGC, is coming up with the terminology that is meaningful for everyone. So yes, I do think it's there, but how to describe it is going to be the hard part.
Fair enough. Thanks, Steve. Actually, I'll mention that there was a Smart Cities workshop in DC, Washington, DC, about a month ago, and Verizon brought in a smart lamppost, just instrumented with sensors, as well as in communication, cellular communication, but also, you know, Wi-Fi hotspots, on a lamppost as kind of a smart piece of the city furniture. So, Steve?
To spice up the panel, so I'm deciding to take a perspective. So
right.
Today, my perspective is there something novel and emergent about smart city? Yes, and then I'm taking on the citizen empowerment perspective. I think the new thing is, right now, is democratization of technologies. So everybody is so powerful right now. Think about how many sensors we have. And with a few lines of code, how much difference you can make. And then I think this is really new, because in the past, city is about infrastructure. Like think about transportation. It's about infrastructure, very expensive, a long time to plan and very expensive. But right now, it's really cheaper, better, and faster. Everybody can do something about it. And then we are smart citizens now. So a lot of bottom up can happen right now, right? Cheap smartphone is one example. Or like in Calgary, they use Bluetooth and to track the phone on highway. So actually it's a very cheap platform. So a Bluetooth receiver at one ramp and the other Bluetooth receiver at the other ramp. And they calculate, they know distance between two ramps, right? And they just try to find the Bluetooth IDs. And then they know, okay, this Bluetooth ID show up here, point A at time A, and show up again, point B, time B, and let them know the traffic flow, the speed, right? It's really very cheap technology and very, very easy. However, replace the expensive road infrastructure sensors, right? So I think this is new. Cheaper, better, faster, and we become powerful, smart citizens.
Can I just counter that?
Sure.
You used the word everyone. My mother doesn't code. So, but that's an important point because this democratization is only for a small population of us. I think we forget that. I think as technologists we get wrapped up in all these things we can do, and you have to remember, we talk a lot about aging populations. So how do we help them? So I know what you're saying, but I think it's maybe it is democratization, but I think it's also citizen experience. So how can it enable a better quality of life for someone? I think we need to be careful on the technology side.
Great. So does that inspire any thoughts for others to comment? A new and novel marketing label?
Thanks for your thoughts, everyone. I think one of the things I'd like to point out, and Steve kind of beat me to it, but you mentioned that we are geeks throughout your presentation, and that's true. We are technology geeks. Probably geospatial people are more technology geeks than other people out there. And I think it's very exciting times because I actually believe this is the first time in history that technology is offering us more than what we had in the past. I mean, in the past we had problems and we had no technology of solving them. Now technology has not only caught up, but we have all this technology and we have millions of applications coming up every year. So integration is the new thing. Integration is the one thing that has brought all this stuff together. And as you said, without that we would have, yes, good applications, but separate silos, useful only to a fraction of the population. And this is why I think the OGC has a really, really big part to play in this time.
Integration is key. Emergent. You got a comment? Your technology challenge there, Steve?
Yes, I am very technology challenged. So, but look at the amount of people who are dying. Look at the amount of people who are not connected to the internet. You know, there has to be a way to translate some of this technology and to help other people, because the gap is only getting bigger between the haves and the have-nots. And I think we are actually very well placed to help a lot of those countries through the members of OGC and the outreach that OGC does, and taking, I mean, for some people, WMS and WFS is revolutionary, even still now.
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but we're assuming that everybody has to understand web services and stuff here to be able to participate in this, and that's what I think is the thing we're kind of leaving out here. I go back 20 years ago, and everybody thought that this silly weatherman, it was crazy. He wanted to go around and put up these symbols on all the billboards along the roads to signify if a tornado warning came out, so people would know, hey, I need to get off the road and seek some sort of shelter. You didn't have to have any kind of service for that, but in the back office, I could see things going on that were driven through services and through the technology that could then be dispersed to the people and useful to the people that were not tied in directly. So I still see that the whole idea of the smart cities playing a big part to even the grandmothers and grandfathers that aren't tied directly in, that could still benefit from what's actually going on behind the curtain in determining some of the things that come from these technologies.
Fair enough. The last mile, the last foot, the last inch to the user doesn't have to be a smartphone, right? That kind of brings us on to the second question that I had for the panel, and that is, what is the status of any developments that we might label as smart city kind of developments? How far are we along on technology development? What is needed to achieve the vision that we have of smarter cities, more efficient cities, and productive cities? Why don't we start on this end, Steve?
Sure. From my today's perspective, so I'm going to talk about, I think, the new development is the new way to manufacture things, and the new way to have, IoT revolution, right? So the new manufacturing is about a lot of variety, but small quantity. In the past, like iPhone is one example about large quantity, but no variety, right? Only one or two versions of iPhones. But I think this new development is about empower anyone. They are able to make the hardware, 3D printing, for example, or if they have ideas, they are able to find help to make things and make the world a better place. Yeah, and a few examples, right? If you have an idea, you can go to a platform called Curti, and then you can have the company help you to make those hardware you like. Yeah, and there are a lot of new IoT accelerators. If you have ideas, they help you to make the hardware and to be part of this Internet of Things or the sensing world. I think this is new because they really empower. When we talk about empowering, right? It's really about empowering anybody. I know a designer like the the smart rings. They are not technical people. They are designers, and they are 20-something, very early. But they are able to find help. It's not that difficult anymore. They are able to find help and make the hardware they like and bring it to the market. I think this is new, a new world. And so I see, because I was in Taiwan a couple weeks ago, and these new major manufacturers, OEMs, they are trying to adapting these new changes. Because in the past, it's like when you want to make hardware, they ask you, okay, how many millions you want to make? Right? They only take orders like millions. But right now, no. They start to take small orders because that's the new world. So everybody, anyone can make things and to do something, connect to the internet and to do some changes.
So I think I agree with that. One of the companies that I work for is a startup called What 3 Words, and they've created a grid, a discrete global grid, 57 trillion squares. Each square is 3 by 3 meters, and each square are 3 words. The two guys who invented it, one runs a music company, and the other one runs an online translation company. So when I spoke to them, I said, well, hang on, how did you guys know about, like, to use WGS84, and how did you know, have you spoken to, like, Esri or Hexagon or those guys? And they're like, who? So, they hadn't even heard of the big players in the market. So they just picked up, they decided that XY coordinates, GPS coordinates, were too complicated to use for location. And with 145 countries not having address systems, they decided to create something that could be used. And so that's just an example, I think, of what you're saying. These guys are not spatial at all, and they don't need to be. I mean, okay, they get asked some questions they have to speak to experts about, but I think that's a case in point. So I think technology development is there. In terms of what's needed to kind of help with the vision, I think looking at things like national information architectures. So a number of countries have these, they're developing them. Getting geospatial awareness at that level, like the sort of CIO for a country or a nation, and getting them to understand the role the geospatial standards can play is something that will help drive that forward. I've seen it in a couple of countries, and it really makes a difference. So in the Netherlands, they have something called Comply or explain why not for some of the standards. And they've had that through Geonovum or Geonovum for several years, and they're now running a national 3D pilot with, I don't know, 60, 70 different organisations involved. So it's getting the highest level. So getting into those kind of national information architectures, I think, is really important to take all the stuff Steve said and turn it into something sort of meaningful.
Okay, again, from the point of moving feature point of view, I would like to mention that the technology development, we have a lot of technology development. During the presentation, Professor Shibasaki, you remember that a lot of developing countries now using the CDR, cell tower information, to understanding the movement of people for experiment. And I think, this is my opinion, but I think we have a lot of technology development, but now we need some another perspective, like developing a new privacy policy or information management policy. We need both sides of technology and policy to enhance and for developing infrastructure for smart city. And so that's all.
Okay. As far as the technology is concerned, during the discussion today, I've seen that many of the technologies are very handy, useful for individuals. And the issue is that by collecting the technology which are useful for individuals, it is not necessarily good for city. And so you need to find something needed for the city which should be broken down afterwards for the benefit of the individual. So the new approach, this may not be the new technology, but the new approach to the technology for smart cities. And the smartness of the city must be evaluated by the balance of the triple bottom line kind of things: finance, society, and environment. And so these three standpoints have the kind of conflicting features. And if you solve this conflict, then the solution is smart. And so, and that kind of thing, I've been having this kind of way of thinking, and that is a bit different from the benefit of individuals.
Thank you. So, did that maybe trigger some thoughts about turning on the microphone? Status of the development of smart city technology, what's needed to achieve the vision, what are the gaps as far as technology? Any thoughts? Apps, Rich? Need apps for anybody? Any thoughts along those lines? Oh, yeah.
I think that when I look at the standard of the OGCs, we are missing of the real-time services.
Real-time services.
Yes, so the smart city is coupled by the cyber-physical systems. So cyber-physical systems is real-time. The sensing, processor, actuator, so store data management. Each part is combined, integrated together, but in real time. So we have the web processing service, website, SOS, map service, but it's not really focused on the real time to connect each other. So maybe
You see an application that needs real time? Is there some specific example that you're thinking of that would benefit from having more real time capability?
Yes, real time. Also, the robotics now, maybe we can. Now we just think about the human consumer, but now robotic itself can be robot. can be consumer of the geographic information, I think. So
it's definitely a real-time need.
yeah, right.
For robots.
The location information.
Back here, one back here. Oops, there we go. All right. Question number 3.
So can we just pick up on the lady's point?
Yeah, sure thing. Go for it.
So in terms of real time, are you talking about things like sensors, like actuators, stuff like that? Are you, because I was just speaking to Steve at the side saying this sounds like some of the stuff that's already covered under the sensor web enablement stuff. So it doesn't care what your sensor is, it's just another feed into it.
Yes, I also kind of agree, because I think in OGC, our model was web service model, right? So it's pool-based, so request response. And then request response is not for real time, right? Unless you just request every millisecond, which is not possible, right? So I kind of agree. Our standard, which is need to more push-based standards, and so self-serving moment here. Sensor things, we have the MQTT profile, which is a more push-friendly. And so MQTT is always a standard, and we just integrate that. So for other working group, MQTT is nice. And I think we need to incorporate more this kind of real-time or push-based mechanism and lightweight ones.
There's been a lot of discussion in the real-time analytics, the big data real-time analytics, about streaming of high-velocity data sets, high-velocity sensor inputs and the like, and being able to deal with it like XMPP as a protocol to deal with that. Yeah, it was actually what we used for SOS.
Back in 2005.
Yeah, and now it's coming back like bigger than ever, so
yes.
Yeah.
But XMPP is better to collect the data, but I cannot be sure we can use MQTT to the, for actuator. I mean, the analysis and the actuator, we need each point, component we need actually.
MQTT
But
is
MQTT
just a
is
transport.
transport, but many is the protocol is focused on the collect of the data. So it's robotics people, usually they use different data for transportation protocols actually. So is DDS?
Yeah.
DDS, kind of, right?
Yeah, DDS. Yes.
So, what kind of services we need is maybe protocol is depend on we should select of the different protocol, but anyway, we need some kind of platform. How can connect the sensor, processor, the actuator is combined in the real time. They collaborate with each other. How can we do that based on the location information?
I think we can agree that this is an action item. We should look into what are the protocols or best practices, right? Integrating real-time stuff for transport, for example, and what are the applications that other communities out there. DDS is one, right? And MQTT, XMPP, and there are lots of them. And see how can we integrate them into our community, right?
So I'll make a plug for Denise. Location powers. We've been talking about one of those as being kind of a high velocity theme, which would be all of the sensors, high velocity sensors in the process as the calculations in the processing, in stream processing. Boy, I'm getting tired.
So one of the things we haven't talked about yet as far as location powers goes, and I guess that's a throw for me to talk about it now. This is part of a series of discussions of different topics, and obviously what you get is a bit of a flow from one to the other. And so one of the ones next year is actually looking at mobile sensors and high velocity in terms of what we'll be discussing. Hopefully West Coast USA in terms of the location of where that will be, so they're not always things that happen at the technical committee meetings, but obviously a topic that we can now take from here directly into that piece of conversation. So Steve, you'll probably get an invitation to come to that one too, I think.
That Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You can come too if you want.
All right, unless there's any burning desire on that one, let's go on to number 3. Is it useful or possible to have an architecture for smart cities? Are there information technology patterns and standards that can guide convergence of technology in supporting users? Let's just start with that.
Okay, answer is yes. And as I mentioned in the morning, that the smart city is a process to solve the problems of the cities, and individual cities have different problems, and but you need some reference model to identify the issues, and then to measure the improvement of the solutions. And also there is there should be a model that to find the tool for the fact-finding of the current status of the cities to solve these issues. And so far, this kind of evaluation of the current status and the direction of solving the issues were made individually by the taste of the mayors. That probably in order to make this solution more scientific, you need some reference model, which is the architecture of the smart city.
I think it's useful and possible to have architecture for smart city because we will have OGC moving future standard nearly shortly.
There you go.
So I think now this is my opinion, but the member of this week really like to contribute to this kind of infrastructure to having effective, simple, and mature standard.
So I had written down as a baseline for guidance, so I guess that's the reference model. From a sort of OGC perspective, I would say it, Karsten talks a lot about logical data models, and if you look at the way Inspire was done and having a sort of generic conceptual model and working from there, then having the application schema for different areas, so like Fixum, Wixum, AIXM, but having the equivalent for smart cities. So smart meter, smart waste, smart grid, having that kind of equivalent approach might be worth reviewing.
The question is useful to or possible to have architectures for smart cities? I think it's definitely useful, especially for small guys, because I heard a joke, maybe it's true. It's right? I heard a joke that the city of Calgary and try to build a smart city, and the major company come and said, you know what, I give you one solution, and then you don't need to know the architecture, we just give you one solution. First start from, so if you want to build a smart city, let's start from building a data center. It's
You only need 100 million.
yeah, 100 million, build a data center, and then you start with your smart city. It's a joke, right? You don't start smart city by building a data center. But for a lot of big guys, and that's the solution they provide, right? You don't need to worry about these sensor networks. I'll give you my sensor network smart water platform or smart some platform. And then that's because there's no reference architecture. Because so they can, the company, the cities, right, the mayors, they can only look for the big company and they have the one-shot solution and $100 million data center, right? So we do need a reference architecture so that they have guidance, right? They know, okay, I don't use the I something M company's solution, and then we have other solutions as well, right?
Fair enough. So clearly we're going to have to ask Karsten, does he believe that there's a set of application schemas for smart cities? And do we have them already?
Yeah, we could certainly come up with the idea to create a smart city GML standard. I think we have learned quite a bit over the recent, 5 years or so, how to actually create data models, and I think that there's enough evidence and proof in the marketplace that using the OGC ISO foundation standard, so that's kind of the lower digit ISO 19100 standards, if you like, as well as the data models that drive the application schemas and encoding that came out of OGC. So that's kind of a long list of standard that Steve mentioned. But what we found when talking to people is that they quite often want to implement CTGML, or they want to implement a kind of water standard or something else. And if you think about kind of a national information architecture, that notion came up earlier, it's probably a smart combination of all of this. And the good news is that there's a lot of interoperability, if you like, between all these different data models and approaches that have been done by the community over the last few years, and that's pretty much because they are based on these foundational OGC and ISO TC211 standards. And perhaps the crux is not whether we have particular standards in the areas that we're interested in, but how we can actually use them and how we can put them together. But if I just can point at Inspire, the way the data standards, the logical models, the information architecture in Inspire came together, that for me is some evidence about a smarter way of doing it than just saying, I'm doing CityGML rather than doing some kind of other information model. So in a way, it's to take the best bits that are out there in the market and try to combine them into the most sensible thing. And I think we've seen that actually works.
Cool. Appreciate the comments there. Other comments? All right, that brings us to our last question. And, we've talked a lot about technology and a lot about geeks and the like. So what do we hope to do? What are the benefits of the smart city technology that are most important that we hope to be able to bring to the residents, the governance, the folks that live in cities and the like? What is that we can bring to them with this technology? So Steve, you got the mic?
Yep. So to conclude, I think from my perspective today, it's really about empowerment and user experience. So we can categorize user in different categories. So user can be the citizens. So let's say we have the standards and we have this smart city technology. Are they happier? Do they can reduce their time to find parking, or they think they are greener because if they take better transportation system, they have a greener lifestyle, so they feel happy. So that's important. But they are not the only category of users. The city planners can be the users as well. So from a standard perspective, is our standard simple enough so that they can use our standard and to do changes to applications, or simple, but it's not simple doesn't mean it's not comprehensive. Yeah, is our standard simple and comprehensive and powerful so that they can be empowered and to do more things and cheaper, better, and faster. So I think it's really about the empowerment and the user experience, and we have different tier of users, right? And that's, I think, the benefit for smart city technology.
So that's quite a nice summary. I mean, I guess from my perspective is the amount of money and time and energy that's been invested in smart cities, just even in this room alone with this meeting. And these meetings are going on all over the world. I would hope that smart cities actually help improve lives, improve people's health, improve sustainability, improve energy, improve infrastructure, help people in developing countries as well as developed countries, because there's a huge amount of investment going in to this banner, smart cities, whatever it means, around the world. So I hope the benefits really are life-changing.
Yeah, I understand. I think the benefit is understanding the city activity itself. I already mentioned that can be help people and maybe help the users to understand city and making a new plan and making new applications.
Very good point. We'll leave it with the indicators. Yeah, what should we be aiming for?
Indicators are aiming at there are two ways. That one is to give the way to understand the issues, and also the standardization of the indicators is to give the common language among the different stakeholders in different cities. And so the benefit of the smart city, ultimate benefit of the smart cities are made is that as in one of your slides that said that the consumption of energy is less effective in cities at the moment. And actually, in physics, if the volume of something becomes bigger, the efficiency must become better. And so, once if the people are living outside of the city, far away from the cities, it is not effective because to transport the energy or anything to the remote places. And so in the emerging world, the people like coming to the cities, and they like to live in cities, and the smart cities provide the solution that all the people who come to the city feel like they like the cities, and not only the efficiency of the city management, but the quality of life of the people is better than other area. That's the ultimate goal of smart cities.
All right, comments about that? Triggered some thoughts? Saving the last from.
I think there's a few points there that are important, but the business community being developed through this is important for government. Like as you said, governments invest a lot of money. When people say the public, business opportunity through development and increase, it is important. I know in our country, the government has invested money and they're expecting certainly people's lives to get better, but they're also expecting greater economic development and therefore more tax receipts coming in. I think throughout today people have kind of glossed over that a little bit. And certainly when you're selling things back to government, which is part of my job, that economic development aspect shouldn't be unsolved.
In fact, I think there's a category of indicators for economic development, if I'm not mistaken, and we didn't address them. That's a good point, that we should address those. Sid?
Thank you. It's just follow, maybe it's not relevant, but I found something interesting. Is I think, for example, New York City, they have a new initiative. So basically, they have an island, and then they have an open bid. So for all the universities in the world, they can bid to build a institution on that island. And then, so basically they decide New York City is the best test bed for city problems because they have all the problems, right? It's a great test bed. So they put in the money and said, okay, so please, some university come establish a institute, and with aiming to solve the problems. And when they recruit professors, they want professors to be entrepreneurs. So they commercialize technology, right, and export to other places. So Cornell won that bid. So they are building a university over there. And however, the second bid also was very good. So Bloomberg personally invested in that second bid. And that's the CUSP, that's the New York University. They have a urban something initiative over there. And I found it very interesting. I echo your economic development idea, right? So people are thinking about new, even from the education and research perspective, right? So how to, it's IP mobility. So from research all the way to become a business and to solve the problem. and from that city and export to other cities in the world. That's something I think innovative. Yeah.
I mean, that's why the British government's putting £100 million into it, because they're stimulating. I mean, on my list over there, I've written IBM, Cisco, Siemens, etc., because they're all putting big investment into Britain. Some of them are building £90 million technology centres because of all off the back of this new great hope, smart cities. So it's a huge economic activity, which is why I started talking about budgets and finance and policy.
Okay, well, let's thank our panel with a round of applause. I think we just had a couple of words to close out. If Denise, you probably want to come up. I know you want to, and if you guys want to sit there, that's fine. We're just a couple minutes more just to see if there's anything that we have left to talk about. The agenda, you saw that. I do encourage, everybody's got the link to the white paper. If you don't, we can get you that link. I gave, an overview of the white paper. Send me just an email with a comment, something that's triggered from the presentation or otherwise. Take the document and edit the heck out of it and send it to me. Whatever kind of comments that you might have, I'm really looking for those so we can integrate those, get them back with the authors, make sure we all agree on that. And the editors, if you really contribute greatly, you could become an editor listed there. And I aim to brief that to the OGC membership this week and move towards a motion that would release the document. So please do send me your comments about that. I think we want to thank all of our participants today. I think you have pointed to the next steps.
Yep. Okay. Well, so next steps on smart cities, most particularly is this getting this document ready and developed, but I think there's not just the white paper, there's also the model that Steve Smith will start doing development work on as well. So there's going to be a couple of pieces of work that are going to start appearing around this, and I guess in the same way that we did the development of the guide and companion document on standards for the UNGGIM, what we're always looking for is contributions from the members in how we put these documents together, because it's not just the staff that actually have the expertise and the information, it's actually the OGC membership. So when these documents go out, they really need to be something that everybody feels is representative of the OGC position. So please keep in contact with George and myself and so forth to put that contribution in there. What you've got up here is an indication that dates will come out very, very shortly and locations very shortly on this, so hopefully within the new year we'll know a lot of these in terms of where they'll actually be located. Likely at the moment, sustainable development will probably be in the US, either New York or Washington. Location in the citizen is most likely to be in the UK. And mobile sensors and high velocity is again likely to be back in the US. So this was a little of an anomaly as far as location powers goes, in that we had it as part of a technical committee meeting week. So that's not going to be the norm probably going forwards. They'll be standalone events. So please keep an eye out for the other conversations that we're going to be having. But I suspect strongly that the Smart Cities one is just the beginning in terms of this discussion, and there will be more than one event that happens in terms of continuing this. So thank you very much to all the speakers. If anybody has a picture to contribute, or a list, or a mind map, or something that needs to be added to the wall, please do so. What I'd like to do is actually just keep them till at least the end of the week and put them up outside to help spark some further conversation with the other members and so forth that weren't in the room today. They act as a really great conversation point in terms of continuing what happens here with the rest of the membership. So we'll certainly be doing that, but if you want to take yours away, I will be taking photos of them also. More than welcome to do that. And thank you.
You're going to update the website with...
Yes, so all the presentations from today will be made available on the Location Powers website. So as a presenter, if you don't want yours up there, let me know. We have been videoing as well all of today too. It will take a little bit longer to get the videos processed and sorted and so forth, but they should be made available on our YouTube channel in the next few weeks or so. So you'll be able to view those too. So, if you've walked away from today with wanting to go back and view or wanting to share with other people outside of here, I please do encourage you to actually do that with the knowledge and information you gathered today. So with that, thank you everybody for your participation. I hope you've learnt something. I hope you also felt like you've been able to share in the environment too, and enjoy the rest of the TC week.